If you take the premise, anybody could be a girl or a boy, man or woman. You only get this notion if you look at, let's say, anthropology. Anthropologists have proven in many, many societies that there are some things that women do in one society that men do in another. There are some things that women do in one society that men do in another. That some societies, both men and women, do the same thing. They dress similarly, or they dress the opposite. Some, like the Scots, the men wear kilts, skirts. Does this make them more feminine? Well, I don't know. Every society has its own culture. And all that the anthropologists have been able to prove is that what you dress, how you act, how you speak, all these things vary as a function of your culture, and that each sex within the culture is usually different. Since we all are raised in a culture, there's no way to know what the pure reality would be if children were not raised in a culture. They all are. The notion that boys wearing pants and girls wearing skirts is somehow wrong because that's the way we do it. How is one to know? Because that's the way we do it. And if we flip it and that becomes the norm, I don't think we've changed anything fundamental because that still would be our culture. In other words, we are trapped. Whenever you raise children, unless you're out alone on your own little island, and almost nobody is, all the kids that are boys tend to do certain things alike. And by the way, even those lesbians who raise boys, the boys usually play with trucks and guns. They like them. Now, lesbian-raised girls are more apt than other girls to use trucks and guns, but that just shows that lesbians create a family culture a little bit different from the greater culture. We're still trapped. We will never know what pure or the essence of maleness is, or the essence of femaleness is. Clearly, it's not putting on lipstick, or not. But in this culture, very few men wear lipstick. Most women do. Very few men wear panties. Most women do. So what? Is that good, bad? I mean, it's the way we do things. And that's fine. If, as some of these gender theorists demand, we give little boys a chance to wear panties and skirts and lipstick and play with dolls and blah, 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 and we make a big thing of that, we know enough about human nature that some kids are going to get confused by this. Not most. And most kids are very, if you make them wear these things, they'll do it if you make them, but it'll just be something silly going on at school or something like that. But every once in a while, there's going to be a kid that gets confused, maybe fixated on that. Here we are in a culture, needs kids, needs people to get married, produce kids, and we're living in a time when some people say, let's see what kids do if they have to cross-dress. Let's see what kids do if they have to experiment with homosexuality. Why? Quite apart from the morality, we're in a crisis. The demographic crisis we have leaves us, I don't think, any latitude to do this. And then think of the children. Why should they be victimized by some, I'd be tempted to say, silly adult's notion? I'd like to know what it's like. I mean, yeah, I wore I didn't wear panties and a skirt when I was a boy, but what if little boys did that? How would it all work out? I mean, would they still want guns as often or so? Who is this guy to mess around with some child's life? Maybe screw his life up. I think these kinds of adults who are willing to experiment with the lives of children are like Mengele, who was willing to try to experiment on like Jewish children. What happens if you take the blood from this and you put it with that? What if you cut off this? What if you, this is horrendous, in my opinion.